Well, welcome to our conversation about redistricting in Sunnyvale as well as California. As you can see, we're going to be doing a Zoom webinar here, and only the panelists and moderators will be on the screen. All the other attendees will be muted or off screen. So if you have questions as we go along, please type your questions into the Q&A. And we are recording this session, so we will have a recording link on our website at LWVCS.org, as well as our League of Women Voters YouTube channel. We actually have a YouTube channel. It's pretty cool. So you're welcome to sign up for that. All right, great. My name is Elaine Manley. I am the moderator for this forum, and I'm the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Cupertino and Sunnyvale. And delighted to have a conversation about creating fair elections and redistricting in Sunnyvale, as well as California. We are so happy to have Jacqui Guzman join us. She happens to be our deputy city manager, and she's got a great bio. So I'm going to read a few things if I may. She serves as our deputy city manager. She also serves as the communications manager, or oversees that. She manages the citywide initiatives, and she serves on the city's diversity and inclusion as the liaison. She's incredibly knowledgeable on this topic, so I'm very happy to have her go over the details of what's happening in Sunnyvale. And as you can see on the slide, she is a very busy person. On top of being our manager, our deputy city manager, and the mother of a beautiful daughter, she's also on the board of Sunnyvale Community Services, the Latina Coalition, and the AACI Health and Wellness. So welcome, Jacqui.
All right, great. So many of you know that we went through a districting process to move City of Sunnyvale to district-based elections in 2019. And you might be wondering, why are we doing districting again just 2 years later? Well, redistricting occurs every 10 years after each decennial census. And because Sunnyvale's council districts were drafted in 2019, they're based on 2010 census population data that has to be updated with the new 2020 census data.
Right. And so we just heard that the census data was released on April 26th for some of the census data. Do you have any idea when you'll get the data for 2020 for the maps?
Yes, so what was released was really statewide level data on total populations to determine apportionment of congressional seats. So they still have not released any data that is useful for local governments to determine our own districts. So what we do know is that they estimate that that the state will receive more specific population data on September 30th. They'll then have to go through a process to reapportion our prison population back to where their home is, and then local governments will get that data. We are thinking sometime in October. So the process is pretty delayed. We would normally receive this data in March, but because of the pandemic and other delays, we won't receive it until probably October.
Got it. Got it. How about we go on to your next slide, if you would, and talk through that, and then we'll go into questions again.
Sure. So our next slide really talks about redistricting criteria. So this really applies to every local government in California. So the number one priority is our federal criteria. We first have to make sure that there is population equality. And again, this is based on 2020 census numbers, or any census numbers. And it, essentially we have to have about the same population in every district, give or take 10% or so. And then we have to adhere to the Federal Voting Rights Act. And under the Federal Voting Rights Act, there are pretty strict racial gerrymandering prohibitions. So you can factor in race as a community of interest, but it can't be the predominating factor in creating district lines. And then in California, it used to be that local governments could determine their own priorities. Based on the latest state law, there's actually prioritized criteria. And so here they are in order. First, you have to follow geographic contiguity, neighborhoods or communities of interest. And that image that you have here is an example of the communities of interest that we identified in 2019. Third is easily identifiable boundaries. Fourth is compactness. And fifth, you cannot favor or discriminate against a political party.
So that was a lot of information. Let's pause for a second. And if anyone has any questions, do please type it into the Q&A, and then we'll do our best to answer your questions, because there's a lot of information on this. So
Yes.
a couple of questions for you. So one on the population equality. Is it counting all people, or is it only counting voters?
It is all people. The census is all persons,
Good.
regardless of age, regardless of citizenship status. It is every person that is counted in the census.
Thank you. And now you were mentioning that you have population equality in a district. And so you said something about 10%. So let's say that the district lines are changing and one population has grown dramatically. It doesn't mean that everybody, if just keep it simple, if we've got 6 districts, that's 60,000 people. I know Sunnyvale has more than that, but just to keep it simple, that would be 10,000 per district in that example. So that would be 1,000. You could have more than 1,000 people. So one district could have 9,000 and the other could have 11,000. Are we understanding that right, or not quite that, not that big of a difference?
I don't think it's that big of a difference. I think from the largest to the smallest, there can't be that difference.
Excellent, excellent, good, good. All right, let's see. Does anyone else have questions? I am not seeing any yet, so let's go on to that next slide then, because we've got more that happens with this. Go for it. Go ahead.
So I did want to share an example of our current district map. So this is the map that was developed in 2019. We went through an extensive community education process, and we encouraged residents to create their own maps and provided them training and tools to do so. And we had a group of community members that called themselves the Unity Group. And it was made up of a diverse group of Sunnyvale residents from all over the city. And they created the Unity map, which is the map that council ended up adopting. So this is our current district maps. This is what was used in the 2020 elections. And we will try to not change too much, but inevitably there has been different differences in population growth in the city.
Good. And so just looking at this map, so there's, as you can see, there's 6 districts, and I love that you put them in different colors. It makes it very easy to tell the difference in them. When you look at the map, is there one area or more than one area in Sunnyvale that you think we've seen a lot of growth in the last 10 years?
So I would say the most growth is happening in the northernmost part of the city, District 6 in particular, but even some in District 5. This is where most of the condo developments are occurring. And so we do anticipate there to be increases in population growth that are disproportionate in District 6 and 5 compared to the rest of the city. And so we will likely need to readjust these council boundaries, which will impact then the rest of the districts in the city.
Okay. And then can you remind people there are 6 districts, but in 2020, only 3 of those districts had elections. And can you remind people which districts participated in 2020 and which ones will participate in 2022?
Yeah, so the even districts went in 2020. So that's District 2, 4, and 6. And so the districts that will be electing a council member in 2022 are odd districts 1, 3, and 5. And one of the interesting things is, because of redistricting and the way that boundaries change, there is a possibility that there are some folks that live at the borders of these districts that may not have had a chance to vote in 2020 and will not have a chance to vote until 2024.
And that will be an awkward moment. And so I'm assuming that the council is going to do, and the commission will do everything they can to minimize that impact, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to understand, but this is why it's important to participate in the map drawing that's coming. So
Right. But it is, I will also share that it's virtually impossible to avoid that disenfranchisement.
Yeah, I would agree with you. All right, great. If you could go on to the next slide, please.
Sure. And so speaking about minimizing disenfranchisement, in thinking about this redistricting process, council first started out with some goals. What did they want to achieve through this redistricting process? And first, they wanted to make sure that we would have a robust public engagement process, that of course we would meet all federal and state requirements, and that we'd keep council engaged and informed throughout the process, even if they didn't manage it, this process themselves. They wanted, as much as possible, to preserve the structure of current districts with minimal changes to meet population and quality requirements. And they also wanted to minimize that disenfranchisement. So minimize the folks that are not able to vote in 2022 when they were not up for a vote in 2020.
Right. Yes, and let's talk a little bit about the public engagement. You know, the first time we did districting to create the districts, there was a tremendous amount of community engagement, and you were the leader of gathering all those people together, which was great. What do you think will be the experience this time? Because it's like people kind of feel like, oh, this has already happened. What's your thought as far as getting the public to re-engage in this process again, as far as how to make that work?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's challenges and advantages. We have just gone through a process of educating the community about the districting process, about why moving to district-based elections is, it complies with the law and can bring about more diversity, which we've seen on our council as a result of moving to district-based elections, and the importance that it makes in representation for the city. And so that's a benefit, right? That people have already been engaged on this topic. Challenges, I would say number one is COVID. We're still in a pandemic. We are doing meetings virtually, which, in some sense, people can engage more easily virtually. And in another sense, folks that are not technology savvy we're not hearing from them, and we're not able to engage with them because that person-to-person interaction is just not possible right now. We don't know when we will be at a point where we can resume in-person meetings, and especially large community gatherings.
Right. Yes, this will be interesting. Well, hopefully we'll sort out that whole process is in the coming months. Got a lot ahead of us for sure.
Yeah.
All right, great. Let's go on to your next slide, please.
All right. So the next slide really describes the public process. Council, as part of Measure B, which moved the city into district-based elections, was required to adopt an ordinance describing a public process for redistricting. And so we started doing this in January and going through methodically and thinking about how we wanted to structure not just this redistricting process, but the redistricting processes every 10 years into the future. And so after going through an extensive process, council adopted an ordinance on April 6th. And as part of that ordinance, council is going to appoint a redistricting commission. The redistricting commission will hold hearings to receive public input They will accept design potentially and review map proposals from the public. And they, in the end, their task is to recommend 3 to 5 draft maps to City Council. And then City Council can either adopt any of those recommended maps by majority vote. And if they are not able to reach some sort of consensus on a preferred map, then they can return one or more of those maps to the commission with comments. And the commission will be able to either address the comments by council or reaffirm that they, like their maps and send them back to council. And at that point, council must adopt one of the maps. They can always reject an option with a supermajority vote, but they cannot reject all options. So they must select one of the maps.
Okay, good. And we were very involved in helping to develop this ordinance, and we felt like it was a very collaborative process between the council and the staff and the community. And so a lot of input was given, and I think council was very receptive to hearing it, and your team wrote it quite well. So we think it's a very, very good ordinance. Question for you on this commission. So it says you're holding hearings with public input. Will all of the hearings of the commission, will they all be public, or will they have to do a few private meetings?
No, this is a public body, and only council even is very restricted in closed session meetings. They have to, there's only very specific reasons that a council could even hold a closed session. The commission does not have the right to have a closed session meeting. So no, every single meeting will be open to the public.
So that'll make it very transparent, which is great.
Yes, and there are even requirements under the new law that the meetings either need to be recorded or summarized and placed on the city's website. So it is very transparent.
Very good, very good. Great. If we could look at your next slide, please.
Sure. So, speaking about community engagement, I just wanted to touch briefly on how we plan to engage the community on the redistricting process. Of course, we're going to have community education workshops on redistricting. We're going to seek public input on redistricting criteria, specifically communities of interest. We're going to be training the community on mapping tools and technical assistance. We'll provide technical assistance on the map making, and we'll be reviewing community map proposals using an iterative process. And what I mean by that is that there will be some back and forth with the map makers. So the map makers will submit a map. They will receive some sort of feedback from the public and from the commission and have a chance to revise their map and resubmit it. And then the selection of the preferred map or even the recommendations made by the commission will be based on public input.
Terrific. And so let's spend a little time on this, because I think this is really where the community wants to get involved. Mm-hmm. Do you anticipate that they will be in these community education workshops, they will have the opportunity to draw maps right in the workshop?
Well, it depends, right? If we are, if we're in a virtual setting, then, folks will have access to an Excel toolkit or Maptitude, which is an online map making tool, and we'll be able to kind of walk them through that process, and they'll be able to play around with it. If we're able to do in-person trainings on the maps, then absolutely people can just, draw on a map and be able to submit either their communities of interest or proposed maps, just, putting lines on an actual physical paper map.
Good. And so will they mail that or email it or?
So it'll be available online. As far as the paper maps, if we are is still in a shelter in place order, then I would imagine we would set up some locations where people could pick up the paper map toolkits at City Hall or potentially at the library.
Very good. Very good. And could one person draw a map and submit it, or does it always have to be a group?
No, any individual or group can submit a map.
Very good. Very good. Okay. You talked about the mapping tools. How long, and I'm sorry, I'm going to pause for a second because I'm thinking this through. So if they have a paper map, they can just draw the lines. It's pretty fast. But if they want to use the mapping tools, how long does it normally take to become competent to use that tool and submit a map? So
That's more of a difficult question. It really depends on how. I think it does require some skill.
Okay.
It requires some skill, but the tool will alert you if you're not population balanced, and so it kind of helps you along in that process. But as far as how long the average person would, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Okay. And then as far as you'll have a demographer, correct?
Yes, so we will have a demographer. We're working with national demographic consultants, NDC, which we worked with in 2019. So they will be back. Many community members are familiar with them, and so they will be supporting our efforts again.
Okay, good. And so if one group in our community says, we'd really like to work on the map and we'd like the assistance of the demographer, how would they reach the demographer?
Yeah, so we're actually so we initially thought that we would have, office hours, but given it's we're in this virtual environment, then we will have windows of time where people can set up appointments with the demographer and have one-on-one time to get that technical assistance with the demographer.
Terrific. That would be great. Great. All right. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. So viewers, if you have any questions, remember to type them into the Q&A. Jacqui is here and happy to answer questions. So you're doing a great job of explaining a lot of the details. So I do think this is quite good, but so far I'm not seeing any questions. All right. I think we can go on to our next one.
All right, so I'd love to dig in a little bit more into the Redistricting Commission, because right now I am knee deep in recruiting commissioners, and I would love to have council. I would love to give council a really high quality pool to choose from. So we are seeking 7 commissioners and 3 to 6 alternates. Commissioners and alternates must be Sunnyvale residents, and they must have resided in Sunnyvale for at least a year. And you do not have to be a registered voter to be on the commission, but you do have to be age 18 by November 8th, 2022. And November 8th, 2022 is the actual election when these new district boundaries will be in place. So that's the reason for that date. So even if there are motivated high school seniors that are interested in giving back to the community that will be 18 by the time the next election comes around, they can apply for the commission. And also residents of Sunnyvale that are not citizens can still participate in this process. There are a few ways that you can become ineligible, and that's really related to political activity. So no commissioner can in the last 4 years have had a formal role in a campaign committee or a candidate campaign in Sunnyvale, or have donated $1,500 or more to a single candidate in 1 year.
Okay. Okay, good.
So those are prohibitions.
Yeah. And
there's also, go ahead, Elaine.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to ask.
I was going to say there's also some prohibitions. If you serve on the commission, then you cannot run for re-election for 4 years. Not run for election for 4 years for a council seat or mayor.
Right. The reason for that is they don't want people drawing the line so they can get elected. So
Right.
understandable. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you to talk a little bit about the amount of time commitment. Most commissions are a time period calendar based, but in this case, it's based on the election. And so could you talk a little bit about how long this commission the person would serve on the commission, and then how much time it might require as far as number of meetings and that type of thing?
Yeah, so this is unlike other commissions where the term is 4 years, this is a pretty short timeline. So we're asking for a commitment between July and February. So it's a pretty finite amount of time, but it will be intense because we'll have probably 8 or so hearings. And then on top of that, some additional workshops. And so I would say about a dozen or so meetings. And then those meetings can be, upwards of 3 hours for those evenings. So it is a time commitment, but it's something that's really important for the community. And at least it's not, a 4-year commitment.
Right, right. Good. That was a great explanation. Good. Let's see if anyone wants to type in their questions, feel free. I think we are okay to move forward with your next slide.
All right. And so let me talk a little bit about what we're looking for in commissioners. So the desired qualifications, we want commissioners that are impartial, that have analytical skills, that are familiar with the city's neighborhoods and communities, that have an appreciation for the diverse demographics of the city. They have the ability to work cooperatively, have some civic and volunteer experience, and of course, have the interest, time, and ability to fully participate in the commission.
Very good.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's very straightforward. So excellent. All right. How about your next one? There we go.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the timeline. So we've just finished up the first phase of our project, which was really about adopting a public process for redistricting. We did so by passing the ordinance. And now we're in the middle of phase 2, which is the commission selection and onboarding. And so that will happen between April and July, really hopefully the end of June. So right now we have scheduled the deadline to apply for the commission is June 1st. We have tentatively scheduled interviews with the council. The council will be making the selection, and those interviews are scheduled for June 17th. And if all goes well, then the council will appoint commissioners on June 29th. And then we will have our first meeting of the commission, which is really an onboarding meeting to train commissioners on the criteria for redistricting, kind of give them the legal landscape, and also go over their duties as commissioners. And that will happen in early July. July 6th, I think, is our first meeting. The good thing is we're planning to have all of our meetings scheduled out. So if you're applying for the commission, you'll know well ahead of time when every single meeting is scheduled, so you can plan accordingly. We're taking our outreach plan to the council on May 4th for approval. And once that's approved, it will be on our website and made public. So everyone can see our scheduled meetings. Of course, things can change, right? We're in a pandemic, and so we might have to change things, but it'll be our plan and our marching orders. And so really the bulk of this process will happen between August and December. In August, we'll start doing trainings with our community about the redistricting process. We'll start gathering feedback on communities of interest. And we'll kind of get the ball rolling, even training on the mapping tool before we get our data, which again, we're anticipating our data will arrive sometime in October.
Very good. Very good. That too was straightforward. Go for
and
it.
I apologize. I think this slide is not updated. It's August through March.
Through March. Oh, okay.
Yes. It would be very, for getting our data in October, it would be very wishful thinking to be able to wrap up the process in December. So I apologize for that.
That's okay. Yeah, like you say, it's going to be in the holiday season, so makes sense. Okay, so then it's August through March. Okay.
Yeah, August through March for phase 3.
Great.
And then I also wanted to share our website, which has information on our redistricting process and the application for the commission. So you can go to sunnyvale.ca.gov/redistricting, and you can see where the red arrow is. That is where you can find the application for the redistricting commission. And then if you're looking to find out more about the process and the ordinance that council adopted, then you can go to the documents tab, and that third document on the bottom is the Redistricting Commission ordinance.
And I think that's really valuable because it gives the person that's applying a sense of what are the goals of the commission and how is it supposed to function, what is its purpose, what's the outcome that's supposed to happen. So I think it's well written that anyone could understand, and that way they know exactly what they're getting into and what their role is going to be. So yeah, thank you so much for making those public and available. This is outstanding. So I think so that was it for your presentation, correct?
That's it. Yes.
Fantastic. What I'd like to do is just spend a little bit more time, and thank you so much for all those details. If you want to hang on for just a moment, we've got just a few more slides to talk about some additional elements of redistricting, whether it's locally or throughout the state. So first off, just once again, as Jacqui mentioned, if you go to the Sunnyvale website at sunnyvale.ca.gov/redistricting, when you click that apply to be a commissioner, it's going to give you this link and it will open up your application, and this is what it's going to look like. And so right on there, it says it's going to be due by June 1st. Don't wait, go ahead and apply. Read your ordinance, see what it's about, and then put in your application. We need great commissioners, just like Jacqui said. The key to this whole thing is we've got a great commission that's going to evaluate the maps and help make sure that Sunnyvale really gets the best map it can have. So we would like to ask if you could tell your neighbors about this, get educated, participate in it, get yourself to participate, grab your friends, grab your neighbors, grab your family. This is very much a hands-on democratic process, and we definitely want you to be able to provide input on the new maps. So,
and if I could, I just want to make a plug. We really are looking for a very diverse group of candidates. We want to make sure that we have people represented on the commission that are homeowners, that are renters, that live in condos and single family homes or mobile home parks. We want everybody represented age-wise, ethnicity, our goal is to get at least one commissioner from each district. So we really do want to just make sure that the richness of Sunnyvale's diversity is well represented on the commission.
Outstanding. Yes, I'm really glad you said that. That is the key, because you want a representative council, and that comes from representative commission, and representative voters. So this is great, very diverse. On the city website, I just want to give a shout out to you, Jacqui, and your team. You've done an outstanding job of providing a lot of great information on that website. And if you'll notice here, there's a place to subscribe for more information. And I've got it on small font. I apologize for that. But if you go to the website, you'll see it's the first red wording, subscribe. And Jacqui keeps everybody informed on what's going on. So definitely take the time to do that. Changing gears a little bit and talking about state level, it's going on throughout the state. So anything that has a district, a school board, the county, our county, San Jose, it's just like all of these places are going through this process. And there are a lot of great resources on it. I'm going to say that Common Cause has done an outstanding job of gathering a lot, and the League of Women Voters at the state level of California works very closely with Common Cause. But if you take a look at this website or Google, California Local Redistricting 2021, this will show up. But it's full of information covering the whole state, a whole bunch of different areas. You can tell your family or friends that are living throughout the state how to get connected and help. there's a cool website called WeDrawTheLinesCA.org, where you can go in and start playing with district lines. Once again, this isn't for Sunnyvale, this is for other parts of the state. Jacqui will have on her website, the Sunnyvale website, when the map tools will be available. Now, that brings up a question, Jacqui, will there be a link to the map tool on your website eventually?
Absolutely.
Okay, great,
Yes.
great. So just remember to subscribe to the Sunnyvale one so you stay informed on that. And your own local League of Women Voters, Cupertino, Sunnyvale, we are actively involved in this. We have dedicated one page of our website called Redistricting, and that has all kinds of resources for you. It has the We Draw the Lines, it has the Common Cause, it has a lot of information about demographics, and it also has recordings that we've done with Jonathan Meta Stein, who is from Common Cause. We're going to put Jacqui's presentation in here as well. So a lot of great information that will be available. Once again, this is being recorded. It takes us a couple of days to clean up the video, and then we will put the link on this website. So do come back to it. You can go to LWVCS.org and then click on redistricting, or you can go to the calendar. It will be there as well. So this is a summary of these links. I'm going to pause for a second because I'd like you to take a chance and either do a screenshot or take a picture with your phone. It'll give you quick access to some of the key websites that we have found that are covering redistricting both in Sunnyvale as well as at the state level. And last but not least, we do need you. Democracy requires participation. So we need you to engage with our government leaders, with the community, with the Redistricting Commission. You know, it's a matter of listening to each other and communicating what we need, but doing it in a civil way. It's like not yelling at each other, but just working together in a collaborative fashion so that we can work together to get that best map for Sunnyvale. So it is a very inspiring process when done well and done with respect, and everybody's on the same page if we want great maps. So we definitely need you to participate in it. And once again, Jacqui, thank you so much for your time today. We really, really appreciate it. I know that you have offered your time for people that want to apply and have questions. Once again, start with reading the ordinance, read her webpage. If you still have more questions, then reach out to Jacqui. She's there and available for you. She is completely dedicated to making sure that she's doing everything she can to make this a great commission. So take advantage of this. So thank you again, Jacqui. Big shout out to you.
Thank you. And yes, I am happy to talk to anybody who is interested in applying for the commission. Feel free to reach out. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat for anybody to be able to contact me.
Thank you for doing that. That's great. That's great. Good. And I'll just thank my league team for being there to help make this happen. And thank you all for joining us. We hope you found this informative. Please share the link of the recording with your friends and neighbors. Put it on the email line or next door or whatever works, but help us get the word out. I'm going to leave it with this page. As I mentioned, this is the bottom line. Here are some websites. If you don't want to go all over the place, here's some key websites that will help you as we go through this redistricting process. I hope to see you at an event somewhere, whether it's on Zoom or in person. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now.